what we screen for OA is different than what we're screening for FCGS, is different than what we're screening for atopic dermatitis. And we just choose. So let's just say we get 6 uteruses in. We've harvested the stem cells, we've grown them all to a certain point, and we're at the point of testing them all.
We're live. Today we have Dr. Linda Black, CEO of Gallant. Fascinating, deep-rooted history in veterinary science, all the fun stuff, which we'll jump into. Lots of amazing work being done in the way of stem cell therapies and research. So super excited to dive into that and what that means for the overall pet industry. So yeah, I guess without further ado, why don't we hear a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of, where things are at now. And yeah, we'll take it from there.
Sure. Great to meet you guys. Thanks for having me. So Gallant started, 6 years ago, and I'm a veterinarian and I have a PhD in cell and molecular biology. And really my career started really in regenerative medicine for pets about 20 years ago at a different biotech company that really pioneered the original way we used to do stem cells in the space. And I just fell in love with it. So it's very different. Stem cell therapies are very different. And the key thing that's different about them is that you're really treating disease at the root cause. So you're not just masking symptoms, but you're treating it at the root cause. And we can talk a little bit more about that later, but it makes them really special. And I just witnessed with my own eyes the way that pets were who had osteoarthritis were improving after therapy. And it was just semi-miraculous at the time. And so I just really felt like, gosh, this is where I want to spend the bulk of my career. And that's what's happened. That's where we started with Gallant. So
it's funny. I remember reading about like your initial foray into a lot of the joint issues with the osteoarthritis and stuff. And it like really resonated with me because I have 2 dogs, and I think one of them hasn't been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty young. He'll turn 5 this year. But I have like a good hunch that he has that. And I'm like already trying every supplement under the sun and everything to try and, prevent and be proactive with that. But that like really, like, I know you guys, and we can get into it a little bit. I know the feline, I think it's like, I can't remember the scientific term, but it's essentially like a gingivitis or some form of that.
it's a gingivostomatitis. So it's not only affects the gums, but affects the mouth, the actual back of the mouth. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Okay.
called feline chronic gingivostomatitis. Is our first product is for that disease. Yes.
Boom. There you go. And so, yeah, I know that's the one you're furthest along, but I'm really excited about the arthritis part, because even looking at the broader landscape now, like if you look at the supplement space for dogs, it is pretty much like the 2 lead horses are, probiotics, or like the multivitamins, and then you have like hip and joint, right? So it's just like it's just a huge problem, and people are waking up to it and and there's a lot of great things on the market, but back to what you said about, treating the root cause is definitely the most, I think that would bring the most peace of mind. Like, wow, okay, I've done something to completely alter the baseline of this, disease, as opposed to just trying to be as proactive or prevent or treat symptoms as much as possible.
I mean, imagine your dog, if he does have osteoarthritis, then you're just managing the symptoms. So he's not really feeling the pain, but he's out there running on those joints. That's the idea, is that the joint issues are still going along. They're still progressing without any kind of intervention with that process of disease that's going on. And so the idea behind stem cells and what we want to be proving out is that they're really disease modifying, and that they are actually doing something that's either preventing or slowing down progression of that disease process, because they're actually altering the biology of the joint, or they're actually creating something in the joint that is making the joint better, essentially.
Yeah.
Instead of just blocking that dog's ability to feel the pain. Or cats. We have a product for OA in dogs and cats, and they're right about at the same place in development. things take a little longer with the dogs, it seems like, than the cats. Our cat studies are going a little faster right now. I think it's the year of the cat right now, right?
It
That's what they're
is.
saying.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, cats are the
Yeah.
new dog, which kind of bodes well for us because our first product is for cats, and our cat OA product is coming along quicker than the dog. So
Why is it you're seeing things go faster with cats than dogs?
I'm honestly not sure. There's probably less competition for studies in cat
Hmm.
OA than dogs. So, for example, our dog OA trials go a little bit slower because we're competing with other products that are being studied, and so there's only so many clinical trial sites, and we're competing for them. And so, if I had to guess, that's what I think is going on there.
That makes a lot of sense. So the end goal, right, is to create an off-the-shelf product for the pet
Exactly.
parent, right? And so
Yeah.
now you're having to go through all these clinical studies, these trials, and all these FDA approvals in order to get to that end goal. What is, and I'm sure it totally differs, again, already we know by species
Mm-hmm.
and also by like what you're trying to actively treat. Like, just give us a rough timeline from like, hey, here's our idea. Now we're going to start to getting all the way to being off the shelf ready.
Yeah, so we started this business 6 years ago, and we're on the brink of potentially having the first approved stem cell therapy. So it's, roughly 6 years. I think it can take anywhere from, 5 to 7 years probably to get something through. Each product is a little bit different because the study designs are different, study enrollment rates are different. So, and that's really one of the key things that either speeds up or stalls your progress is this enrollment rates for clinical trials and also your study design. So you might have trials that have a 60-day endpoint versus a 6-month endpoint. You can see
Yeah.
obviously the one that's got 6-month endpoint is going to take a lot longer. Those are some of the areas. But our first product is we went after it for a couple of different reasons. I mean, it's a smaller market. It only affects about 2 million cats. But really the reason that we chose it is because we have what we call MUM status on it, minor use, minor species, and that allows us to go after what the agency calls conditional approval. So it makes, you still have to have all of your technical sections submitted to the agency. So you still have to have your safety technical sections submitted and completed. You have to have your chemistry, manufacturing, and controls technical section. And then you have to have your efficacy technical section, but you only have to show efficacy in a smaller group of animals than you would in a much larger pivotal trial. And so the idea is that you're getting these medicines out to pets in need quicker. And so that helps us because we have a platform technology. So our technology is built on the technology of uterine-derived stem cells, and it's a platform. And so we have multiple indications or multiple products coming off of the same platform. So that means that certain technical sections have a lot of redundancy in them. So if you get one through the agency, you're really creating a roadmap for the rest of them. Like you've created this roadmap with the agency. We know then how to get it through the agency, and you can apply that to the other products. And so from that perspective, it became a no-brainer. This is the one we have to go after first. It's faster and it helps get the other ones through quicker as well.
How difficult is it to run a biotech company? I would assume compared to most of the other sectors, because if I want to start a food company or any other SaaS tool, whatever it is, I develop it, I check the market if there's a demand for it, gradually scale it, and again, depending on whatever sector I'm in. But here, it's not only talking to investors and getting them on board and raising tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. It's, making sure there's FDA approval, making sure the thing actually works, hiring all the scientists, and then a bunch of other things that I'm probably not even aware of. So how difficult is it on a scale of 1 to 100?
When I hear you say it, I get tired. So, it's like I'm remembering. Yeah, wow, it is that hard. It has been that hard. Yeah, I think when you're first starting a business, like I started this business with Aaron Hirschhorn.
Which can you also tell that story? Because the first time I actually heard about the company was when I watched it on Shark Tank, and he was pitching it. And then all these years later, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I made that connection when I saw you. So yeah.
So Aaron Aaron had this idea that well, he had a back injury, so he was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and he got a back injury that he had for a very long time and tried everything under the sun to fix it and couldn't until he got a bone marrow concentrate injection in his back, which is essentially stem cells. A component of that is stem cells, and it legit cured his back. And so he also had an arthritic dog called Rocky, and he was like, why isn't this more, routinely available for pets? So then he found me because, I was one of the earlier pioneers in the space too. So he found me and he wanted me to come and start this stem cell banking business for him. That was his original concept of the company. And I thought that was okay, but I liked his idea, et cetera. But I also knew that the real benefit, or the real thing that was going to bring our mission to fruition, and the mission was really to bring regenerative medicine to all pets who need it. So to make it accessible, the way to do that was to create an off-the-shelf business. And so, but that's longer and harder, and you're not generating revenue for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you have to raise a lot more money. And so in order to come on board, though, I said, look, that's the deal I'll make you. We can do that. I'll help you do this, but we have to be doing this at the same time. And so he agreed. And that's how we got going. Shark Tank was a big part of just early exposure, to pet parents and also investors and things. That made a nice video for people to look at. And Aaron was very charismatic, and he could raise money without a PowerPoint. So it was nice for me because I knew how to, start and run the business, and that was a great marriage of business partners. And then, unfortunately, 2 years later, he passed away tragically. So Aaron was a builder. He liked to start companies, build them to a certain point, and then go to the next thing. And so it was the plan. I would take over as CEO, and he would move to chairman at a certain point. But it was still about probably a year earlier than both of us had contemplated. So yeah, that was a difficult transition in our life, and one that we were talking about. How hard it is to start a biotech and get it going. Yeah, that made it harder, obviously, because when I was doing my one job, that job is challenging in just getting the company off the ground, dealing with IP, hiring the people, making sure you're hitting milestones, all those things that you know about. But I didn't have to worry so much about the fundraising. I helped him raise money. I would go with him. We would present. I would talk science. He would, do the other pitching. And I helped him. That was just a lot easier than transitioning to doing it all myself. But we've made it over that hump now, so I'm happy.
That's an additional layer that I think, most companies probably don't have to go through. Was that like obviously extra tumultuous, but was there some fear at that time, or just because you were already part of it before, you kind of it was a natural transition?
Well, I think it was a natural transition, but sure, there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of crying in my office every day for probably, I don't know, 3 months or so, because we talked every day. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, wow, I was alone in that process of running the business. And so, I have to manage my emotions right now, just sort of talking about it. But we have a really great board and really good men on our board, and they just really rallied around us and made sure that I was okay. Dealt with, they just rallied around and made sure, for example, that anything that I needed, I could talk to them about. I was by cell phone every day to them. And just helping us navigate different challenges that came up with Aaron's passing, not only personally, but just challenges in the business. Like, how were we going to raise the next round of money? And that also came the time when we had to decide about pivoting the business all the way towards this off-the-shelf model and not really putting resources into the stem cell banking business. And I mentioned that, I think, in my article with you guys, but it's not so much that we don't believe in the stem cell banking business. It's just, as biotechs, they have a runway on each amount of money, and you got to be putting your resources where the value in the business is. And it was also where my expertise were. My expertise were not in growing the commercial business of the stem cell banking, et cetera. My expertise were in creating a company where we turn a technology into something in our head into something that you can actually give a pet, and it's a very different skill set, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much have you raised
yeah.
in total?
Well, we just completed our Series B where we raised 18 million, so we're at 68 right now.
Wow.
Yeah. That's not a lot of money when you think
Yeah.
about what we have as well. And that's something that, like, I'm pretty proud of my team about. We are really scrappy and very judicious with our financing. So we can do a lot with a little bit of money. Big thing that we have that a lot of biotech companies don't have at our stage is our own manufacturing facility. So one thing that was really important for us, and I think makes us super legitimate, is we will be in charge and own our own manufacturing. And that's a huge risk factor in biotech companies, because most companies like us, they would tech transfer to a contract manufacturing organization. And there's a lot of time and money and risk in that tech transfer, because you guys know how to do it, we know how to do it, but then you write it all down in a big SOP and work instructions and you transfer that to somebody else, but they still have to actually execute on that. So lots of time and
So
testing,
is that like a
and I
is
just
that like
didn't
a
want to go through that.
co-packer essentially, where you outsource the work to them and they do it, and then
Exactly.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so companies usually that are like us, that's what they would do. They would outsource to a contract
Got it.
manufacturing facility and someone else would manufacture that, because they don't typically have the resources early on to put into building their own manufacturing site. And because of Aaron, we did. I remember the day we had this conversation, I said, Aaron, look, if we're really going to do this, we have to have our own manufacturing. It's the only way we're going to be considered legitimate. It's the only way that we can really decrease our risk in this area and speed up the timeline. And so he's like, okay, I'll go raise some more money. And that's what he did. And then we invested in that. So it's really one of the things that makes us special.
Yeah, that's cool to be vertically integrated like that, and you own the whole process, and it's like you don't lose all that time and money on back and forth as to maybe why something didn't happen. It's like, I'm gonna go right down onto the floor
Yeah.
and figure it out, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, like, I think especially for a lot of just pet parents, it's very easy when it's like someone launches a supplement, a food, a treat, whatever, any other kind of like consumable. You're kind of like, okay, I go to the site, I add to cart,
Mm-hmm.
it arrives at my door. Like, what is kind of that, like, I guess, MVP of how will a customer, interact with you? Let's just say, like, I have a cat and
Mm-hmm.
you're ready for your off the shelf product. Like, what does that process look like from a high overview of, like, I want to do this thing, to, like, I have this issue and now I want to implement these stem cells?
The veterinarian is our customer. This is obviously a prescription product. All of the products, when they come out, will be intravenous. So it's as simple as giving an IV injection, and the product is shipped frozen. So, for example, our clinical trial sites right now, they either have freezers in their clinic that they've gotten from us, or they get the product shipped overnight to them, frozen. And the way it'll work is, veterinarians, veterinary dentists will have a patient that comes in and we'll just talk about the first product, feline chronic gingiva stomatitis. We'll have a cat that comes in with this problem, probably referred to them by a veterinarian who, has managed it as far as they can, and it's still not getting better. And then from that point, they will be able to order it on our website, but we're also working on other channels in which they can get the product. But most likely, one of the ways will be they'll be able to order it directly off our website. We're working right now with some specialists on our customer journey and customer experience from the moment that or moment they contact us to the very end when they receive the product and all of that, and making sure that it's really important. Trust is really important, and it's really important for us that veterinarians not only trust us, but their experience with us is seamless and frictionless. And so we have a team of people working on all of that right now to make that happen.
Very
And then it's
cool.
going to be a little bit of a learning process, right? So, we're not super focused on revenue in the first 6 months of selling this product at all. We're more focused on how do we deeply understand our customer? How do we deeply understand what they need? What are the pain points in getting this product or using this product? And we've obviously gotten a ton of experience already from our clinical trial sites and revised things. But anytime you're bringing a whole new category of care to veterinary medicine, there's things we don't even know we don't know.
Yeah.
And so the first 6 months is really about, gosh, sorting through all of that. How can we just make everything seamless and deal with whatever problems come up that we don't know are going to come up, and learn, test and learn before we really make a push to start selling the product. So I think the other huge challenge of this time and right now for us, or opportunity, I should say, really is education, right? Bracky did a study where they showed that 53% of veterinarians have used regenerative medicine in the old way. And the old way was really about, single dog to single dog. You have to harvest tissue, send it off, get it back, put the stem cells in. Very laborious, very expensive, and time consuming. Very different than what we're drawing this line in the sand now and saying everything from here forward is the new way. It's this off the shelf. You're getting stem cells in a bottle. They come from a universal donor that's been FDA qualified. So 53% of veterinarians have used regenerative medicine, but they've used it in this old way. And so educating them, and obviously everyone, not just the 53%, but making them aware of regenerative medicine, making them aware of why stem cells are different and that they're treating the root cause of disease. They're not just masking symptoms. Making them aware it's simple, like an IV injection. I mean, when you think about the complexities of the old way, that's kind of what's in their head. And we're a little bit, I think, we'll have to overcome that, and we're learning right now the ways that veterinarians are thinking and how to overcome that with education. We hired Rebecca Windsor, who's just off the charts amazing. And she was like me. She's a boarded neurologist, but she was a practicing neurologist and was working on pugs. So you might have seen some of this out there, but she was working on this. So these pugs, they're so cute. Like they
I have
can
one.
get this brain disease. You have a pug?
I do. I have a
Oh,
pit pug mix and a pug. Never set out
oh
to be a
wow.
pug person, but now I am. So you have my undivided attention
They're so
110%.
sweet. I just love them. But they can get this inflammatory brain disease, okay? And so they start having really subtle neurologic deficits. They can start to seizure. Essentially, they will just go on to die. I mean, it's very difficult to manage them with steroids and symptomatic therapies. And so we did a study. It wasn't our study. It was Ethos Discovery Study, in which Rebecca was the principal investigator, and that's how we, learned about Rebecca. And they needed a source of stem cells to do this study to treat this in dogs. And we said, okay, we'll donate stem cells, at cost for the study. We're happy to support that. And lo and behold, the paper just came out in JAVMA that, a lot of these pugs improved. All of them improved. I think there was 13 that they treated. All of them improved. And it's a small pilot study, but she saw dramatic improvements in 24 hours, such that
Wow.
it changed her. It changed her. I mean, you read her LinkedIn right now. I mean, she wanted to come work for us. And because her whole life was changed by what she saw as a boarded neurologist in these pugs that were getting stem cell therapy that she historically had treated that were difficult to manage. And so it's kind of like when I first saw it, right? When I first saw the effect of stem cells, like you just instantly become a believer and you instantly realize like, wow, we need to bring this to veterinarians. And so she works for us now as the director of veterinary affairs. So she's the person really out there kind of at the interface between us and the universe, educating veterinarians and talking to them. And I adore her. And she talks about it like I do. So I think that's part of it. She's super, super great person.
Can I just ask what is, because I put a pin in something you said earlier, which I thought I wanted to ask. Universal donor, what is that?
The old way, I remember I said you had to take fat or whatever tissue from your dog and then get the stem cells out of it and give it back to your dog.
Okay.
Well, this new way, you use a universal donor. So you harvest the uterus. Our technology is based on the uterine derived stem cells. You harvest the uterus in a simple spay procedure, that most female dogs get. And that donor animal is an FDA qualified donor. So it has to undergo a lot of testing, disease testing, et cetera. It's a very young cat or dog. And then we take that uterus in to our GMP manufacturing facility, and we harvest the stem cells from it, and we grow them up, and we can create more than 30 million doses from one uterus. So you can see how that is scalable. So it's universal in that cells from that one uterus can go into any cat or dog versus the old way, which was what they call autologous.
Yeah.
Does that
And
make
how?
sense, Roy?
Yeah.
I know it's a little complicated.
No,
so I
it's
want to
all
make sure
right.
I'm explaining it right.
Where do these dogs come from, or cats come from?
Yeah, so we usually buy a colony of them at a contract research organization, and they house them for us. They grow them up for us, and then we harvest the uterus during a spay procedure, and then that's how we get our donor material. And because you have one uterus can give you so many doses, it only takes a few of them to really be able to supply. If you look at the projections of what's needed for each indication, you only need a few uteruses in the freezer to be able to supply the whole pipeline.
Got it.
It's a pretty better, easy way to scale up. Yeah.
How viable? Like, what's the life cycle on like a 30? Like, say you get 30 million from a uterus today. Like, how long is that viable for?
Anecdotally, or actually scientifically speaking, other stem cell types, if they're being frozen at what they call liquid nitrogen levels, indefinitely, 20 years, 25 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they just get stored in those big dewars that are full of liquid nitrogen for forever.
That might be the most scalable inventory I've ever heard of across like
right.
anything. That is so crazy. That's really profound. And one of the questions I have too, like with stem cells, like they do so much, and is like the point of control. I'm really dumbing this down, and probably this is probably laughable, but like, let's just say my dog had two things going on, like my pug. He has the neuro issue, and say he has OA, and I want to treat both. Is it merely like the idea is I get, I don't know, two vials or two bottles, and then one goes injected somewhere in the smush face, and then the other one is just like at the joint site? Like, how does that work?
The way we started to first learn about how stem cells work, and this is way back 17 years ago, is we would inject dogs' joints, and if they also had atopic dermatitis, that would get better too. If they also had dry eye, that would get better too. And we started paying attention to these things, and so that's honestly where our first list of products came from, is because we anecdotally we know where these products work. That being said, for our particular indications, we choose specific donors. So when we get a donor in, because every donor animal, every uterus we get, when we harvest stem cells from them, we put them through a battery of tests that have to do with growth and everything, but also for what their secretory profile is. Because how these stem cells are really working is they're secreting stuff, okay? They're going into the body. They're reacting to what they find in the body. So let's just say they're going in the body, and there's a big inflammatory inflammation going on in the body. They're reacting and secreting certain things that are counteracting that inflammation, okay? And so, and there's different, like OA is different than FCGS. And the things that work for OA don't necessarily work for FCGS. And so we know these things. We know the things that the stem cells need to secrete. And so when we choose these donors, they're based on our screening them for what they're secreting best. So the FCGS donors are secreting certain things for them. that maybe they're not secreting as much for OA. And so each product has its separate donor that will optimize it for that particular condition. We also have something called prime cells, and where we've treated the stem cells with something that makes them secrete a certain thing. And that's another way that we differentiate. But all that being said, you would likely treat both things, even with one of our products, it would likely treat both of those things for your dog. Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of that determining factor of what it could treat comes at like when you're harvesting and growing, and like you're kind of deducing what kind of stem cells you're getting from that
Yeah.
particular donor animal.
Yeah, what their secretory profile is a big thing. So, what we screen for OA is different than what we're screening for FCGS, is different than what we're screening for atopic dermatitis. And we just choose. So let's just say we get 6 uteruses in. We've harvested the stem cells, we've grown them all to a certain point, and we're at the point of testing them all. We will choose the ones to allot for FCGS that are secretors of certain things, and equally with all of the other indications.
I immediately just got a visual on a product page of seeing like the secretory profile. That's like, I immediately, that like clicks for me. It's very simple, right? Like I understand like, oh, okay, so this is what this is made up of. And like, I could see all the different, things that this could potentially treat. I'm curious, in your initial conversation so far with the vets, since they are going to be your, primary customer, are you seeing any better, I guess, adoption or understanding or openness from like an integrative vet versus like more traditional, or do you have any insights on that yet?
Yeah, I think naturally, because the therapy is so novel, et cetera, we attract progressive clinics, and that are focused on innovative therapies, et cetera. And so I think that those are probably the most likely ones that will start with us, and we'll start to market, and we're really understanding more deeply right now all of our customers and our clinical trial sites, and so I could probably have a better answer for you in another 6 or so months when we really digest, hey, what are all the differences between all these clinical trial sites, these sites that really want to participate in this, and what's the sort of demographic of them, and how can we then target those same types of practices and make them more aware. Yeah, and our marketing team is just working on those things, but I don't have a total answer for you yet.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because like there's just so much change going in the vet space right now that I'm just like, who's like super receptive to this right now? Because I'm sure I could be pleasantly surprised by thinking, oh, this person must be very open to it, and maybe perhaps they're not. One of the things I immediately thought of too is I have some friends that are in medical sales, and like the stories I hear about like being in an OR and like showing a doctor,
Oh, yeah.
like, this is how you use our product, like having to do it like live in action. That world is so crazy to me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, is this going to be like the new space here where you have people coming into like clinics and operating rooms? I mean, I'm sure, an injectable is much different than opening someone's leg up and putting some device in it or something like that. But it's such a crazy idea of like having to go in and show and like actually show them how to use this or explain it. I don't know, it's just like a whole different, I just never thought of that being applied to pet.
Yeah, especially because those people typically aren't surgeons or anything
Right.
either. They're
Sales
people,
reps.
So yeah. Right now, we do a lot of support like that, similar like that. I mean, the product is super easy to give, though. It's right now in our current clinical trials, they place a catheter and they give it intravenously at a slow IV push. But there's still some things, veterinarians who've never done it before, and rightly so, are just a little bit nervous about it. So, like you get the product, it's in a little vial like this, you thaw it in your hands for 30 seconds like this, or you leave it on the counter for like 15 minutes, and then you draw it out and, you give it to the pet. But they don't know what to expect, et cetera. So we have a lot of support. Our clinical research associates actually go to the clinical trial sites to train them and to get them really comfortable with the product first. And we'll also have a lot of training videos as well to understand what to expect. And so it's not difficult, but I just think the concept sounds complex to veterinarians and regenerative medicine or stem cell therapy. And I think historically from the old way, we're carrying the baggage of it was complex, and challenging to do. So it's just part of our educational process. And we're working on those kinds of things right now, videos and again, just understanding who our customer is and what they really need to get comfortable around the product. I think another thing that will help too is our KOLs like Boaz Arzi and others, people like there's a number of others, the clinics, for example, where the owner of the clinic is speaking for us at a conference because they have so much experience now with the product and have had such great experience in these cats that these cats they're what they call refractory cats. And so they've gone through teeth extraction, they've gone through steroids, and they're still not better. These pet parents have gone through just hell and back trying to help their cat. And so then they get stem cells and more than 70% of these cats improve dramatically on stem cells. And so once veterinarians start to see that, they're like, oh, and they get comfortable with it, then it's just, becomes routine. And honestly, that's our vision. Our vision is that one day all veterinarians, this will just be standard of care. They will have a freezer, they'll have the products in there, and they will, think about the pet that is in front of them and what is going to be the best therapy for them. And it might be, for example, a disease modifying therapy like a stem cell therapy, along with a symptomatic therapy that treats them together at the same time. I mean, every case is different, so we're not trying to say like, oh, stem cells are just going to replace everything. We're saying, no, it's a disease modifying therapy that needs to be part of the thought process of veterinarians as they're treating the pet in front of them. And that's just going to take some time to make that happen. But that is our vision, that one day it's just going to be normal, like a vaccine.
What are the and again, this could be a stupid question, but I feel like all my questions could be potentially stupid questions. I need it all like dumbed down when it comes to this stuff. Like regulations across different states, because it's pet, are there none? Or because I know with human stem cells, I don't know exactly, but I know a lot of people go to, I don't know, Puerto Rico or South America to get stem cell therapy. Yeah. So I don't know what the rules and regulations are with humans. And then I don't know if because it's pets, it's more lackadaisical. It's easier to get FDA approval across federal or state, or how does it work?
So first of all, the issues with human stem cell clinics are because all stem cells, I'll just say all allogeneic stem cells, all stem cells that are from a universal donor, are regulated as drugs. So you have to have FDA approval. So the reason they're going off-site for that is because they're not allowed. It's against the law to give those therapies. It is also against the law for in the pet space. And so there are rogue companies out there right now selling products similar to ours without FDA approval. So that's wrong. We're trying to go down the right path and trying to get this FDA approval. And if all works out as we planned, we're hoping to be the first product that's FDA approved. And so once that happens, then you're able to market and commercialize the product. So that's the difference. Yeah.
Got it.
Like, again, this is probably putting the cart before the horse. I definitely is putting the cart before the horse, but like I go to Gallant's site and I'm like, yep, add to cart, check out. Is the idea like that then it's kind of like a prescription now where you like choose your nearest pharmacy, but you choose a vet clinic? Is that like the ideal maybe scenario? Maybe you haven't even gone through this process yet.
Perhaps. And yeah, we're still working on those. We're still working on that distribution plan at the moment. So, but that's an interesting concept that you just brought up. But essentially, the veterinarian would be the one, they're our customer, and they would be the one ordering the product for their patient or having it right in their freezer and being able to administer it to their patient.
Do you need to have, or are you having these conversations with the insurance companies as well, or that doesn't matter as much as long as the veterinarians are the ones that are behind this and they see the efficacy and they want their patients to have this, then the insurance companies get on board? Like, how does that conversation happen, if at all?
So I think about 12% of pets are insured in the US, which
I
was
think it's
kind of a
even
shocking
less.
number to me.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's like
I
3 or
expected way more.
4%.
It's like less than 5%
Yeah.
market penetration. Yeah.
And then in Europe, it's way, way, way higher.
It's
Very interesting. But I do know, at least with one pet insurance company, that the old way that stem cell therapy was done historically is insured. If a pet went in, they could run it through their insurance company. So we're not really worried about that. In other words, it will be an FDA approved product, and therefore should be insurable. We should talk about cost then as well, because
Yeah, we should.
the old way of doing stem cell therapy was very expensive, and so we're creating these therapies. When you can create 30 million doses from one uterus, et cetera, your cost of goods are pretty low. And so we're expecting that these therapies, even though they're, stem cell therapies and they sound like they should be really expensive, will be right in line with, like, if your dog's on Librela, be right in line with what it's going to be costing to keep your dog on Librela, or even a non-steroidal. So,
which would be what?
Well, I think Librela right now, I'd have to look, probably is about $2,100 a year or something. It's an injection. So
they have to come in multiple times a year to get this injection or to get this IV.
Yeah, well, this is a good question too. So the way that the stem cells are administered is you give it once, and then 2 weeks later you give it again, and then you may not need it for a whole nother year. You may not ever need it. We have some cats on our FCGS trial that have been essentially, they're in remission. That's what they're calling it.
wow.
But in my own anecdotal experience, like for osteoarthritis, et cetera, the duration is usually around 6 to 9 months, but we have seen dogs go all the way out to a year and a half. So every pet's a little bit different. And the idea would be that you would get these injections, monitor your pet over time, and then they would get re-injected as needed. So it may be once a year, it may be, once every year and a half. It would be different for every pet.
How exciting is it to be in the pet space, and specifically, I guess, in biotech right now, compared to 6, 7, 8 years ago, where we're seeing innovative companies like yourselves and a whole host of others. I won't name all the names, but from longevity to everything else.
I think it's exciting right now. It's been a difficult funding environment for a few years. Yeah. We've been, lucky, blessed, et cetera, to be able to overcome some of those challenges. But from just a standpoint of, this is when gene therapies are starting to come about. We have Loyal with, a longevity drug. And I think it's time, right? It's time to, monoclonal antibodies are very, they've been here for a while. I think it's time for some new products to come onto the market. So we're excited about that part of it for sure.
Yeah, faster. I just wish it was faster. I'm like, I'm asking all these questions because I'm immediately like starting to go through the process. Like, what's this gonna? I'm like trying to compartmentalize. Like, okay, yeah, like this is exactly how it's gonna go. Like, this is my expectation. I'm gonna do it as soon as it comes out. Like, I just, it is just, it's like we talk about this so much in the newsletter, not only like the humanization, but just like the complete shift to everyone being proactive, everyone trying to like get out ahead of, any potential disease or anything that will affect quality of life, and just trying to be as proactive as possible. And there's a lot of great products, but like, with the supplement and things of that nature, there's some really amazing companies, but barrier to entry is low. And and so especially in comparison to what y'all are doing. And so it's just like I'm just so excited for like Loyal, you guys, like
Mhm.
how is this going to integrate with like all the amazing things that's happening with like wearables, and just like the treasure trove of data that will be in front of us, and like the clear path to a game plan for this ongoing treatment is going to just be significantly clearer in like 3 to 5 years. And I'm just like, uh, I I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
So this is actually very good for me to hear because this is what we think about pet parents, and you just articulated what we believe, but have been fleshing out that pet parents, I mean, this is even a line in some of our marketing that we're developing, is that pet parents want more.
Hmm.
Pet parents want more than just symptomatic therapy. They're thoughtful about what's going into their pets. It's not just like they're taking their pet to the vet. I mean, they're letting the vet decide everything. I mean, they're very much researching, like you are, what is going to be best for their pet. And so it's just good for me to hear that from you. It's just validation of what we think we know. So
Yeah, there's just a lot of, with social media and stuff, there's so much distrust, and like it's the same thing you see with politics, but it's happening in the pet space, where it's like
mhm.
the there's no blending and gray area. Like there is, but it's eroding so fast, where people just don't
Mhm.
believe this person, or they don't believe this idea,
Well, it's like the
Mhm.
probiotics thing, right?
yeah, I mean, it's just like people, but at the end of the day, like I can already, as you were talking through, like just the proof and what you saw with your eyes, and what your team has seen with their eyes, it's like you immediately become a believer. And it's like I already started seeing like all the crazy stories that I'm sure are going to be pouring out from, like, it's such an emotional, we view them much as children and in a lot of capacities. So it's like that emotional tie, at least. So the elation that comes with, like, oh my gosh, like I've been, like you said, gone through hell and back with my pet, and now I'm seeing, some resolution. Like that story's gonna sell itself, and people are gonna see proof, and people are gonna be able to show that. And I think that's just gonna be, it's gonna supercharge everything that you guys are doing, because that's a big piece right now, is like they can't speak. We can
Right.
only go off what we can see
Yeah.
with our eyes, or what the data is telling us, or what tests are telling us. And so, um,
Very true.
yeah, it's
I,
it's
I
going to be
think
big.
just two comments on that. One is this is also the benefit of actually having an FDA approved product, is that it's been through a rigorous process of clinical testing, both for safety and for efficacy, and had to pass muster with all of that.
Hmm.
And so there's that piece of it, but also you make passionate pet parents. So I had to do a little photo shoot. My marketing team's always trying to get me to do these things, and I had to do this photo shoot with. I mean, it was with some other things, but part of the photo shoot was with a pet parent whose cat was in our study, and they brought their cat, and I can't tell you, like, chokes me up just talking about it right now. Like how these pet parents, I mean, they just looked me in the eye, and they were just crying about, because their cat can now eat. He's now groomed, because when these cats, they when they have when their mouths are hurting, they stop grooming, they stop eating, but they also stop grooming, so
Mm.
they look horrible. He was this beautiful gray cat, and they just said, "Look at him. He's happy." They were feeding him this little treat, um, and like crying. And so, like, this is really, like, when I see pet parents like that, and I don't get exposed that much to them, but in this particular case, they were right there with their pet with me, and it's really rewarding, and it makes me realize, like, wow, it's so hard what we're doing, but it is so valuable, and it's really worth bringing these products to market. And we're super happy. We're getting close. We're getting pretty close.
Yeah, I guess we'll end with this little tidbit: is how close are we? When should we check back in? What's like a
So
rough timeline? Are we talking, Santa's going to bring us a present, or are we looking at next year? Or
So we're looking at 2026. That's what our timelines are showing right now. And of course, I mean, we can't say for sure anything, but
yeah,
all indications are we're tracking with everything. And I would just look for PR coming out soon. Every month we'll
You could
be
probably
putting out
find it on the Wolf
something.
newsletter.
Yeah.
There we
Yes,
go.
yeah, you'll probably get it before I
Uh,
do. But yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Linda Black, for your time and all of that insight. My wheels are spinning and will probably continue to for the rest of the week. Looking forward to following the journey, and yeah, keep an eye out for those press releases. And we're definitely rooting for you, as well as I'm sure most pet parents, because this is much needed.
thank you. It's been so fun being with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.